Yeah. It's Terrific Tuesday, everybody. Come on. How many of you were blessed enough to be on staff back in the days of Terrific Tuesday? Well, we're not bringing it back. We are not bringing it back. Don't even worry. Praise the Lord. All right, find a partner, please. Tell them the following. Say, you look very nice today. Not as nice as pastor or anything like that. But I want you to pick somebody you feel relatively comfortable with. I want to continue the exercise where we share a win, but I want it to be an invisible win. That is, I don't want it to be, this week we had record attendance at my campus, because probably some people know that already. What I would like is, if nobody knows it but you, that it was a win. I got up on time. I struggle with the snooze button. Seriously, like that. I didn't talk bad about my mom. I don't do that. I can say that anytime. But just if you have an invisible win, it may take you a minute, so I'm stalling on your behalf. An invisible win. Are you gonna do the snap? Today. I love that. I love that. And I was actually gonna mention, I would ask you, how are you enjoying this series? But I don't even have to ask, because you guys have just been so vocal on it. I really appreciate that. It is really nice to go home, and while I'm staring at the wall, to also kind of scroll, see what God did at your campuses, see what God did in your heart. There's nothing cooler than that. I know it means a lot to the church, to the people who follow you. But we want to continue in the momentum of it. I feel like this is the peak momentum. I couldn't imagine the series having more momentum than it has now. So it feels very good to me from a content standpoint. I want to keep the momentum going of how we started the year as a staff as well. And I want you to share what's a win that you had this past week, that maybe people wouldn't know about. Smallest thing, just the smallest, dumbest thing. If it's a win for you, I want you to share it, okay? And we'll do this 3 different times. But go ahead and grab your first partner and share an invisible win that you had this week. Wrap it up. Find a new partner, somebody you want to talk to, somebody you feel comfortable talking to. New partner, go, new partner, move. Switching in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Make the switch. Last person. If you see somebody you want to talk to, this is your last chance. After this, I'm doing all the talking for the rest of Staff Rally. Move around, find somebody. I don't want to see you standing there. Let's go, let's go. Get in threes if you have to. Now I'm going to count down from 11 for 11 years of ministry. When I get to 0, shout like we won the Super Bowl. 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Shout like you won something. Come on, put your coffee down like you won something and shout. Put your coffee down. Put your coffee down. And use your hand. There it is. Chilling like that. No, like this, like this. All right. Somebody shout, this is a winning team. All right. Take a seat. If you're going to be a winning team, you ought to sound like a winning team. You ought to look like a winning team. Smile like a winning team. Fight like a winning team. Amen. I feel kind of chatty today. I feel like sharing. I don't want to share about the power of precision. I already did it. I don't want to share about the power of preparation, the power of pre. I did it already. I want to move on. I want to share about the power of potential. I feel like I covered that pretty well this weekend. So how about the power of pro? Would that work? Yes, sir. The power of pro. Me and Amy were laughing while Zach was miking me up because he said, we got a new mic. He said, we got tired of running your headset mic back and forth from Ballantyne to Matthews, so we just went ahead and got a new one. I said, how much was it? He said a number that, it's hilarious to me, would have given me heart palpitations 11 years ago. And now we just buy it. And then me and Amy were laughing. I said, do you remember at Christ Covenant, I was telling Zach, he couldn't believe it, but it's a true story, how at the church we were at, before we started, this is hilarious. Holly, you're going to laugh at this memory because you don't remember, but when you remember it. The preacher preached with a lapel mic, but they didn't have any handheld cordless mics. So when people would come up to make announcements, they would pass around the lapel mic. Do you remember? And the first thing I did when they put me officially on staff was I put a motion before the committee. Can we please, for the love of Muhammad, they make mics that you can hold like this. I mean, you got to imagine, I was in my 20s, I didn't have any authority, but I had my same standards. So to watch people do this, and in my mind, what I saw for ministry was this. And it's that gap thing, even in college. One thing I've always had a high standard of excellence. And even when I'm not meeting my own standard, I still own it. And I've always had it. It was never about money for me. And I'm glad that I've had the same wife through it all, because anything I say to you now, she can verify that when we were sitting in college, both freshmen, not dating yet, remember this was pre-enlightenment for Holly. This was me during the time I was working for her attention. And we were at Hayes Ministry Center on the North Greenville College campus. And a guy, I won't use names in these illustrations because I want to tell you a few stories today, but we'll call him Bill. A guy named Bill is leading worship, those old passion songs, good songs. We fall down, we lay our crown at the feet of Jesus. His guitar's out of tune. There's a brother with a djembe. And they were having nominations that night. I would sit there and listen to the music. And it was a smaller gathering, like 80 people, 100 people, something like that. And but I thought, like, it still ought to be good. You know, we were sitting all over the auditorium, empty seats everywhere, which kills room dynamics. And you're starting to understand why we do some of the things we do right now as I take you back. I'm sitting there out there, and they were doing nominations that night for the leadership of the Baptist Student Union, the BSU, for the next semester. And Holly's sister, Emily, looks over at me and goes, if I nominate you for the music chair, that's what they called it, not the worship leader, the music chair. They're Baptist. If I nominate you for the music chair, will you do it? I said, I nominate Stephen Furtick. Didn't wait for me to answer. Moment she did it, and they said, do you accept? Real formal, real Baptist, right? I said, I accept. The moment I accepted, I had this vision. I saw like white people in a black gospel choir. I felt like if I could bring black gospel music to the Baptist Student Union, if I could import this great music that I loved so much, if I could teach them Hezekiah Walker, John P. Key, I start them out on Kirk Franklin. It's the gateway gospel drug. Start them with Stomp. And I was telling Holly about it, and she can tell you, I said, it's going to be awesome, because remember, all we had is a djembe and Billy on acoustic, and they didn't know but 4 songs, apparently, same 4 songs every week. And I hated it. I would sit out there, and I would hate it. I didn't yet know that the things that are complaints today can actually become contributors to your calling. Knowing how to channel potential, learning how to use frustration productively. And so I'm sitting out there, and the moment I raised my hand, I saw it, and I was trying to tell Holly about it. I was like, hey, we're going to have a choir, we're going to have a full band. It's going to be amazing. And, you know, you got to remember at this point, no budget. Nobody really was lined up for these positions. I did not have scholarships to give out. And I'm not going to tell you the whole story because I have a lot I want to share today on the practical end. But the long story short is we did it with excellence. We did it with excellence for the next 3 years. It grew to like 500 or 600 people that would come to the meetings. That's on a peak week. Probably average about 380. But it was so big by the end of it that we had 3 different choirs on rotation: A choir, B choir, C choir. And I was mean to them too. I remember the first time I gathered them together and we were talking about, I said, I want y'all to wear red and white. And they started freaking out on me. Dress code? I said, yeah, dress code. And now here's how I always was. It was like, because if you don't want to do it, I'll find somebody else. I didn't have anybody else to do it. But I've always had that little bit of attitude because I always felt like God is great and greatly to be praised. If we're going to do it for God, let's do it right. I always felt that way. I've always felt that way. And it was never about branding. It was never about marketing. It was intrinsic. After I had the choir going for about 2 years, I decided I wanted to record an album. And again, doing it with no budget. I asked Mason, could I approach the, what was that family, the Messers, for they were donors and they liked me. And I said, could I ask them to pay for it? He said no. And I went to the president of the university. I found him at a football game, sat right down beside him. I said, Dr. Epting, I wanted to talk to you about, and I asked him, could I ask him for money? He taught me a valuable lesson, Chad. I want to teach you this now that you're at Lake Norman. He said, you never ask $1 million donor for a $10,000 donation. Now enjoy the game. And he sent me away. So I couldn't raise any money, so I had to do it. I had to spend a lot of my own money. There was no budget for it. We recorded it. Long story short, it ended with me picking up my drummer, we'll call him Hank, picking up my drummer at a bus stop in Fort Mill, South Carolina, at Jake Hunter's studio, used to be White Room Studios, at Jake Hunter's studio to try to fix this disaster of a project. It was a disaster. The guy that I had recorded it with told me he knew what he was doing. I didn't have any option but to believe him. We rented some gear for $300, tried to record it in a concert hall at the school. Eventually, you realize that you get what you pay for, that inexperience does have a downside in certain areas. Expertise is required at some point. So we were in now, and I'm spending my own money. You'll remember this because I think you thought, maybe I was losing it. But I was determined to finish the thing, and I wanted it to be right, and I wanted to, before I graduated college, I wanted us to have an album. But my drummer, Hank, I love this guy too. I have a lot of stories about him, but I remember picking him up from the bus station, and I was telling Jake, I'm going to get my drummer now. He's coming in from Atlanta. It's going to be awesome. He's amazing. You're going to love him. I pick up Hank. I bring him in. Hank goes in to start playing, and I can tell Jake is not impressed. He said, this is going to be a problem. I said, why? He said, because your guy, he's got licks, but he's not a pro. And we're going to have trouble recording him because you need somebody who knows how to lock into a tempo, not just somebody who has fast hands and knows some fills. I don't doubt that he's been, a good drummer for you, and I don't doubt that he may have a future as a good drummer, but I'm just telling you, I charge by the hour, and this is going to get very expensive with your boy. And it did. Eventually to the point where I had to ask Jake, do you know any pros? And when I said that, he smiled. He said, Rick Murray. We got to call my boy Rick Murray. He got happy for the first time he had been happy in 2 days. He said, if we get Rick Murray in here, Rick will do in 2 hours what your boy couldn't do in 2 days. Because Rick's a pro. And we brought in Rick, and Jake looked at me after it was over and said, now I got bad news for you. Once you go pro, you never go back. He said, Rick just ruined you. Now you know. See, you've been playing with all these roommates and dorm mates and suite mates, but now you know what a pro is supposed to sound like on the drums. Now you know what a groove is supposed to feel like. Now you know what it feels like when someone hits the drums evenly. Because your boy Hank, there are things about recording that he doesn't even know that he doesn't know yet. He doesn't know that you can't hit the snare drum inconsistently. Every time he hits it inconsistently, that's more time I have to spend fixing it. But you can't know that if you don't know that, and it takes a pro to know it. Would you look at the person next to you deep down in their soul, past their eyes and their pupils and into their soul? Just look at them, make eye contact, lock right now, and tell them, go pro. Stand up if you're a pro. Stand up if you want to hear what I mean by that before you answer it and you're just sitting down because you don't want to get burned. Am I that bad about setting you up? It is worth mentioning, sit down, that you can be a paid amateur. On the other hand, you can be an unpaid professional. There are volunteers who do their roles with more professionalism than some staff members. I guess I'm talking about a different kind of pro because when Elijah chose Elisha, he didn't go to the prophetic school, he went to the field. And he picked someone who was effective in his profession, and he gave him a new profession, gave him a greater sense of purpose. He gave him an opportunity to go pro. Jesus didn't go to the rabbinical school or ask for some references from Southwestern Theological Seminary. Instead, he found some professional fishermen. He said, I'm going to change your fashion, but I like your pro. I like the way you do what you do. I like your physical therapy approach. I like the way you do it. I just want to change what you do, but I don't want to change how you do it. A spirit of professionalism. That's what I mean by the power of pro. I read a book Stephen Pressfield wrote, The War of Art. How many have read it? The War of Art. The book impacted me so greatly, I had most of the passages from the book, it's a small book, put on the wall in my office. So if you ever walk in, you'll see lines and lines of text on one of my walls, and it's from that book. He wrote another book called Turning Pro. And I want to read you a couple things out of it. I was just looking it over last night and this morning. He's talking about not becoming a writer as a profession or not joining a church staff, not when you start taking your paycheck, because one thing I would stand by is that I was pro before I was pro. I was pro, by which I mean proactive. That's the real value I want to get you thinking about today is proactivity. Proactivity. If there's one thing I value in the people I employ, the people I lead, the people I count on, it's proactivity. If there's one thing I despise, it's a passive spirit. I try really hard not to punish proactivity. So when someone does something and they do it wrong, I'm not likely to get too upset. But if they didn't do enough, that's when you see a different side of me. True story? True story. I rarely punish if you tried too hard. I may correct, but if you want to see me take the jacket off, if you want to see the tie come loose, if you want to feel the tie around your throat, don't try. Because I can't stand it when people are passive. Not about something that matters. And so Pressfield is writing his book about how everything changes when you turn pro. And he poses the question, have you turned pro yet? And that's what I'm going to give you to look at today, is the profile of a pro. You got it? Profile, yeah, okay. Profile of a pro. Let me pull up my bookmarks real quick because there were a few. Go pro. Go pro. Look at your other neighbor. Say, go pro. Go pro. He said, I didn't change after I turned pro. I didn't achieve enlightenment. I'm the same person I always was, with the same weaknesses and the same fallibilities. But everything is different since I turned pro. What changes when we turn pro is we stop fleeing. We plant our feet, square our shoulders. We stop running from our fears. We turn around and face them. Our aim centers, I'm skipping around. Our aim centers, just the parts I highlighted that I thought might be helpful for you. Our aim centers, what have we been talking about in this series? Take aim, take action. Our aim centers on the ordering of our days in such a way that we overcome the fears that have paralyzed us in the past. We order our activities in order to accomplish an aim. Before we turned pro, when we were amateurs, he contrasts throughout the book the amateur and the pro, and he's not talking about a check. And he's not talking about a position, he's not talking about an age, he's talking about a mindset. He says that before we turned pro, our days were simultaneously full to the bursting point and achingly, heartbreakingly empty before we turned pro. But now we will have to choose between the life we want for our future and the life we have left behind. Each day, the professional understands, he or she will wake up facing the same demons, the same resistance, the same self-sabotage, the same tendencies to shadow activities, which is when you're working on stuff that's procrastinating your real purpose. and amateurism that he has always faced. The difference is that now he will not yield to those tendencies and temptations. Turning pro is a decision, but it's such a monumental, life-overturning decision, and one that is usually made only in the face of overwhelming fear, that the moment is frequently accompanied by powerful drama and emotion. Have you gone pro with this thing called ministry? Because if I don't make you sick of 2 Kings 13, 14 through 20, by the time I'm done with this series, I haven't done my job. I'm just mining everything I can mine. I can't get out of it. I don't know if anybody is bored with it yet. I don't care. I'm just in it. I am in it to win it. I am in it to the finish. I'm gonna preach it till I'm done with it. And one thing that stood out to me for our context, maybe this isn't like a church message. Maybe I will share some of this with the church. We'll see. But the king did everything that Elisha told him to do, and nothing more. If you look at Elisha's life, he didn't stop with the instructions. It could be said about Elisha that his ministry was known for preparation, digging ditches in a valley. But also, if I could think of one word to describe Elisha, it was proactive. Proactive to a fault. Kind of like Peter, hey, they're coming to get you. I'll take their ear off. I'll cut somebody for you, Jesus. Proactive almost to a fault. But it seems to be that God likes proactivity. It seems to be that he is, can I say it this way, attracted to the proactive. He seems to choose people to preach on Pentecost who took it a little too far in the garden. And the king took the bow because he was told to. The king shot the arrow because he was told to. He even struck the ground because he was told to. But proactivity isn't doing what you were told to do. It's what do you do after what you have been told to do. I want to work on it a little while. So I want to do, he told him, you should have struck the ground 5 or 6 times. And I want to use that for a model. I just wrote down 5 or 6 things, profile of the proactive. Even in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Have you read that book? I put it in is it still on the shelf? Where's Bailey? Bailey? Is it still on the shelf? Those books that I picked out that are over there on the shelf, I picked all of mine out. Holly picked all of hers out. That one is there for you to take. His first habit, Stephen Covey's first habit, the best self-help book of all time as far as I'm concerned, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He tells you up front, be proactive is the habit that makes all the others possible. If you cede your sovereignty for your results to someone else, you will never do the other things that make you effective, happy, successful. It starts with responsibility. It starts with ownership. This is on me. And me and Holly were talking last year about some things that weren't the way we wanted it on staff. And at the end of the year, I think I made it pretty clear that there were some things I wanted to change. And I was pouting like an amateur about some things I didn't like. I was violating my cardinal rule of leadership. Never complain about something you can change. Never complain about something you can change. Well, these people, who pays them? They're my people. I chose y'all. If I don't like who I got, I need to get some people I like, but I like you. So I need to be in here with you. Sitting over there watching stuff happen and not getting involved in it when I'm the leader. What kind of crap is that? I didn't build the fastest growing church in American history. Pardon me for sounding a little braggadocious, but sometimes you gotta own your role. And the Lord spoke to me real clearly, and here's how he said it. You have to own your way out of this. You have to own how it is, and own the steps that it will take to produce the outcome that you want. And that's not just going to be speaking at staff rally, that's part of it. You're going to need to make some decisions. You're going to need to make some moves. You're going to need to confront some things that you don't like, some things that the ministry has outgrown. You're going to have to shift it. You're going to have to be willing to be uncomfortable. You are going to have to own your way out of this. And me and Holly would talk for years about how we wanted our green room to feel. And then we would expect the people in our green room to magically produce something that was in our minds that had not been communicated. One day she looked at me and she said, you know what, I realized our green room is an extension of our home. If I would own the environment of the green room, that's when she went pro. The moment that she said, I'm owning this. I'm not going to think about why don't they do this and why don't they do that. If I need to have 10 meetings, if I need to shift who comes in, who comes out, if there are some people who don't know how to do it, I need to get some people who do. If there are some people who know how to do it but haven't been told what to do, I need to tell them what to do. I need to inspect when the standard isn't met. I need to confront it. I need to own it. You've got to own your way out of it. And that's what the Lord spoke to us. Grow up. Own it. Be proactive. Be a pro. I'm so proud when our video team goes out and they interview my friends. I'll always get a text back, your team is so pro. Makes my chest swell up. I act like I taught them how to do that. It really doesn't have much to do with me, but they're pro. I was so proud at Liberty last week. If you could see our worship team, the support team, if you could see how pro they are, how little ego. Because the thing about my drummer was, it wasn't that he wasn't confident. He had more confidence than he had talent and experience. The thing about Rick Murray on the drums was, let me just teach my points because I got 5 of them. The less talent you have, the more ego you need. Let me teach my outline. All right, number 1, this is the difference between a pro and an amateur. This is Stephen Pressfield's model, but my points, okay? He has his own stuff and all that, but I have my own too, just observations. Because once you meet a pro at anything, once you meet somebody who just is committed to excellence, you won't settle for anything else. You won't want to bank with people who aren't pro. You won't want to see a doctor that's not pro. You won't even want somebody blowing leaves out of your yard that's not a pro. It's just a difference in the way they feel. Anyway, and here's what I've noticed. Pros produce, amateurs project. First contrast, profile of a pro. Pros produce, amateurs project. What do they project? The way things should be. If it were like this. If it weren't like this. That's the mindset of an amateur. If I had a bigger budget, a pro will produce on pennies. A pro will pick up Hank from the bus stop and find some money to pay Rick when Hank doesn't work out. I'm not bragging. I'm just telling you that maybe I could say it like this. When you know your purpose, a commitment to excellence is natural. The resources are not always correspondent to the level of excellence you desire, but when you go pro, you are determined if it's $5, if it's $50, if it's $500, if it's one song, if it's 4 songs, if it's 3 minutes to share, if it's 30 minutes to share, if it's 5 people I'm sharing with, if it's 5,000 people I'm sharing with. My commitment to excellence does not become greater with my opportunity. My commitment to excellence with what I have is then it produces my opportunity. My commitment produces my opportunity. It is funny to me how some of my staff have a professional posture in staff rally. And some look like interns. And some interns look like staff. I can tell a lot by a posture. I can tell if you don't have a pin out. You're not a pro. You're a paid hack. Too much?
No, sir. No, keep going. Keep going. Help.
Don't have a pen out, don't have a pad out, don't have any intention of taking what I poured myself into and producing with it. Pros produce. Pros say, you gave me 2, here's 4. If you'd have given me 5, I'd have given you 10. Pros will make you wish you would have trusted them with more. Amateurs will make you want to take back the little bit that you did give. And another thing that amateurs project is expectations. Pros produce according to their potential. This is not less than I'm capable of. I need to step it up. Pros will produce according to they'll measure themselves against their potential. When they're not hitting it, they will go and grind on it until their performance is reflective of their gift. Amateurs won't. They will project on other people. They will project a standard that has not even been stated. And if it hits home at any point, it's for your good. God is trying to turn you pro. God is trying to get you beyond this projecting and wanting to see, did they say I did a good job? When you're pro, they don't have to. When you're pro, you know. But when you haven't invested in the preparation, you overcompensate by looking for external validation. Because you need somebody to say it was good. When it was really good, you don't need anybody to tell you it was good. Am I right? When you really gave it everything, you don't need anybody. You just know. You just know. It's not even cocky. You don't have to tell 25 people. You don't have to post 30 selfies about it. When it's good, and you know it's good. Pros produce. Amateurs ponder, project. Well, it'd be nice if they didn't set it up this way. Boy, it'd be really good if I could have got some more notice on that. Pros like the pressure. Ooh, good, I like the challenge. I wish Pastor Wood asked me if I could get a shark for staff rally 30 minutes before he steps up on the stage. I like to try to find a shark. Gives me an opportunity to produce what's in me. But if you're not a proactive person, when I say pro, I don't just mean professional. I mean proactive. I mean, you don't have to tell me to strike 5 or 6 times. If there's 5 or 6 arrows, I'm using all of them. But amateurs project. Amateurs get frustrated because they say they're not getting feedback. Pros seek out feedback. Number 2, pros pay for correction. Amateurs make others pay for correction. I will explain. Roger Federer has a coach. Can you believe that? He's the GOAT. You agree, Chunks? I don't know a lot about tennis. I quit tennis. Josh Blackson retired me from tennis. Came out and spanked me one day. It was rainy, it was cold. He spanked me. He hadn't even been practicing. I've been paying for lessons. He spanked me. I quit. Last time I played. I play Holly now. I will only play Holly. I didn't like it. I don't want to go pro at tennis. It's not. It was one more thing for me to feel like I needed to be doing more, and so I've laid it aside. Things of this world for the prize. I think it's so funny that he has a coach because he doesn't get to say anything during the match. Only thing I can figure is that the byproduct of his greatness is his self-awareness that he still needs somebody to tell him what to do. Meanwhile, on the other hand, I got Elijah out there, amateur, and he thinks he doesn't even need to listen to Robert, the instructor that we're paying, because he doesn't know what he doesn't know. He's not a pro. But Fed, I figured like he knows that, and he will pay top dollar for somebody to tell him what he's doing wrong. He's a pro. Who's the girl I gave $100 to? The intern I gave $100 to, yeah. I used it as an illustration. Do you remember? Yes. I was talking about compliments are cool, they're nice, whatever, take them, treasure them. I like them too. We all like them. Hey, it's great. But when somebody gives you a critique from Not from just anybody either, but from somebody who really loves you, and they say, this is what I see. The way you treat the critique determines whether they see you as a worthy investment for another one. And everybody wants to be coached until they get coached. Everybody wants to be coached until coaching means correction. All right. Personally, for me, I wish I could have a sermon coach. I would pay top dollar for one. But they don't fall off trees. And usually those who do. And so there's people who will coach you on your sermons, and they're preaching to 17 people, okay? Those are the coaches. Most of us that are doing it, we're hesitant to teach it because we really don't understand it. It's a weird thing. Anyway, I'll tell you something real quick. A couple years ago, Bishop Jakes made the mistake of giving me his cell phone number. I said, are you sure about this? Because I'm going to use it. I said, I just want you to count the cost. That's exactly what I said. It was a Friday afternoon. He said, just don't give it to anybody else. I want you to use it. That's why I gave it to you. I said, all right. And I eased into it now. I eased into it because he's my favorite. You know that, right? Yeah. I couldn't believe it. I mean, it wasn't a status thing either. I've got other people's phone numbers. I didn't want to tell people I had his number. I wasn't interested in posting. Chatted with hashtag Bishop Jakes today, hashtag grind, hashtag hustle. It wasn't that. It was like, the first thing I would do for a year is I already listened to his sermons every week and studied his approach. I think he's the Federer of preaching, and so I want to know. But my first thing was to just, I realized that he probably doesn't get as many texts as I think that he does, because I know I don't get as many as people think that I do, and so I was like, I'm going to be one person telling him what his sermon meant to me every week. I did that for about a year. But then I decided, when he started inviting me to come preach for him and stuff, and he would tell me it was good, and he would tell me that it was great. And one time, listen, one time he called me Picasso. I was like, can I have a gun? Can I blow my brains out? Life won't get any better. I want to die right now. He said I was Picasso. But see, now remember, compliments are cool. But correction, that's an investment. That's a priceless investment if the person knows what they're doing. I have gone too far with this before. Carl Lentz told me one time, he said, quit letting people correct your jump shot who don't know how to score. Because I was trying so hard to be teachable, I was listening to everybody. And he was like, have you looked at their life? Have you looked at their ministry? Have you looked at their marriage? Why are you listening to them? So there is a line. But now, I mean, if you got Jordan in the gym, if you got Federer on the court, so I started trying to ask Bishop Jakes, what can I do better? He wouldn't answer me. Here's why. Secret of adulthood. Adults don't want advice. They say they do. They really don't. They want affirmation of the decision that they've already made. Or they want attention. They don't really want advice. What do you think I should do? They don't really want to know. Ask them when they say, what do you think I should do? Say, what do you want me to think you should do? Because if I don't tell you what you want to hear about what I think you should do, you're going to go to everybody else and go alphabetical order till you text the person who will tell you what you want to hear. So this is kind of like, now listen, if King Jehoash would only do as much as he was told, Elisha was the exact opposite. Because Elijah turned around to Elisha before he was taken up and said, you can go now. I'm done with you. Elisha is like, nope. I'm going nowhere. Be right here. 3 times he tried to run him off. Nope. I'm not going anywhere. This is kind of like the disciples, you know, when the crowds would leave, Jesus would say, hey, you want to go too? There's the door. What was he doing? He was turning them pro. The moment you turn pro is when you don't have to go any further. It's no longer mandated. It's no longer required. And you do it out of your own sense of passion and purpose from within yourself. Not because somebody's watching, not because somebody's clapping, not because people are noticing, and not even because you're in the mood to do it. That's when you go pro. So I decided I'm gonna get something out of Bishop Jakes. He's gonna teach me something about preaching. So here's what I would do. I would ask him specifics. I'd be like, is it better to do this or that? And he would talk to me, tell me why he did with his sermon, but I couldn't get him to talk about preaching. So finally, I figured out. I didn't know if I should just come straight with it, but I did something kind of clever. One day I said, hey, it was really cool how you did this. Blah, 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 blah. I was telling Buck this the other day. I said, you did that to work the crowd, huh? I knew that would piss him off so bad because the last thing he cares about is working the crowd. So I had to make him mad to get him to talk. The next text I got back, they start, psh, psh. That's the problem with young preachers. Y'all want to work the crowd. What you need to do is work the word and let the word. I'm like, oh, I got him now. I got him. Reeling him in, he didn't even know it. I'm going to make you make me better. So that began something. Rilke wrote Letters to a Young Poet. I'm going to write a book one day when Bishop Jakes is a little older called Text to a Young Preacher. Because I save them, I put them on note cards. I review them, I do them 6 months at a time. Of text messages he sent. I don't really need the note cards, I got them memorized. Because please don't hear this the wrong way. I'm a pro. And the other day I asked him something. I'm trying to learn more, trying to get better. And I asked him a question. I bet I thought about the question for 2 months before I sent it. Carefully formed and all of that, because that's the thing I need to know. And I had it. I knew what I needed him to give me feedback on. I said, so this and that, but go to the next level. Hurt my feelings so bad. He said, your whole exercise misses the point. He didn't give me an answer. He corrected my question. And that's where you find out, are you pro or not? A lot of times when we say we want to be coached, we want to be developed, we want to be trained, we want to be grown, we want answers. But when you go pro, it changes the questions. And that's offensive. Because now somebody's in your face saying, you're not even working on the right stuff. You're not even doing it at the right level. And see, you'll take coaching on your terms when you're an amateur. You'll take feedback when you want feedback. You'll take feedback when it aligns with things that you already thought you needed to improve, things that were already bugging you. But when somebody says, you're holding the racket wrong, you're not even holding it right, see, that's embarrassing. No, I didn't want you to show me how to hold the racket. I wanted you to show me whether to hit it, whether it should be backhand or forehand. No, see, pros are willing to get into the interior and figure out, am I even doing it right? Amateurs, when you correct them, they make it so difficult that you have to think 3 times before you ever do it again. Because they either, well, that's not what or they go real quiet and give no feedback that anything was received. Or they break down on you. They start withdrawing themselves. And all you're doing when you become uncoachable is limiting the level at which you can be developed. So I texted Bishop back. My first response was, okay. I had an attitude. Okay, because he said, whole answer missed the point. And I thought about it, and it led to another question. What I eventually got to was the very thing that I didn't know I needed to know. The very thing that I didn't know to ask. We love Ephesians 3:20. Now in him was able to do immeasurably more than we ask or imagine. That means I don't even know what to ask for. I don't get to submit my self-improvement plan to God and ask him to follow my syllabus. Number one, I don't know what he wants to do with me ultimately. And number two, I don't even know what's causing. I'll say that I need this fixed, and I'll say I need this addressed, and I'm going in for cosmetic surgery when maybe there's something going on the inside that's more important. It's trendy to want to coach. It's trendy to want to mentor. It's trendy to want all that. But until you are willing to receive correction as an investment, you can't be coached. And sometimes people are walking around you withholding stuff from you that could really help you. Because every time they try to help you, you punish them for doing so. But a pro will pay for it. They'll be like, hey, will you please tell me what I need to ask? Will you please, I'm not asking you to show me how to do this better or that better. I'm asking you, it's a mentality. It's a pro mentality. Look at your neighbor and say, go pro. This is good. This is good. A pro, this is the third one. Y'all got time for 3 more? A pro, the 2 words, if you want to keep it kind of uniform, it's purpose and personal. Purpose and personal. Question. Do you fit your personality to your purpose, or do you modulate your purpose to fit your personality? Because when you're a pro, you try to figure out what is it that God is calling me to become, and what purpose is he calling me to fulfill, and what kind of person would I need to be to do that. Amateur is the exact opposite. An amateur will say, well, that's just who I am, and I can't change who I am, and I am who I am, and I just gotta be me. Yeah, you gotta be you, but not 1.0, and certainly not beta. And a pro understands that is constant upgrades. Every time I turn on my phone, they want something approved and something agreed and something upgraded. And if you are going to be a proactive person, a person who walks in purpose, this kind of person, this kind of staff member, this kind of husband, wife, listen, whether you stay on staff for another week or another 50 years, I want to help you turn pro. So you don't sit around telling yourself it's the way you are. Remember what I taught on patterns and how we'll say something is our personality, it's really just our patterns? Yeah, a pro will uncover and say like, well, I don't want to be that kind of person. I don't want to be known as just an abrasive person. If abrasive is how I'm coming across, but God is calling me to connect with people, I actually could make the case that Elisha did not fulfill his full potential because he didn't submit his personality to his purpose. Here's what I'm saying. If you look at his life, he's calling bears out of the woods to kill boys. He's cursing Naaman or cursing Gehazi. He won't come out to see Naaman. He's got an attitude about him and an edge about him. I think that's why he died with power still in his bones. I think that's why Elijah was taken up and Elisha was buried. We've been watching The Crown on Netflix. Don't even come from my man card. That show is awesome. It's awesome. It's like a leadership class too. So if you watch it, have a notebook. First or second episode, this is not a spoiler, so I can tell you that Elizabeth is taking the crown from her father, the king, and her grandmother leaves her a note. And she writes her a note about the crown, you know, what it means to wear the crown. And it's, if you want the exact note, I noted it. It's season 1, episode 2, around 52 minutes into the episode. See, when you're a pro, you write crap down because you don't know when you're going to need it to teach your staff on a Tuesday morning. I don't teach as an activity. It's not my profession. It's my purpose. It's my lifestyle. It's my commitment. I'm not saying I'm the best at it. I'm saying that I am fully committed to it. There is no more that I have to give than I give. There isn't. There isn't any more to give than I have to give. So I wrote down the exact quote. She said, the grandmother says to Elizabeth before she takes the crown, the 2 Elizabeths will be in conflict. That is who you were before you were the queen and who you are now. The 2 Elizabeths will be in conflict. The crown must always win. The crown must always win. Because there's that part of you, that human part of you, that's not going away. And it's not even that God hates that. You know, he's the God of Jacob. We've preached all of this. We know that God loves those unmentionable parts of us. But that purpose part, that crown represents that purpose part. The crown must win. There are days where I wish I wasn't Pastor Stephen, because Pastor and Stephen have street fights. And there are days that I wish that I could be just in the mix. But I got a calling. And my calling is in conflict. So I can't just, it's my personality, excuse my way out of purpose. I got to be transformed by the renewing of my mind and get my personality has to serve my purpose. You see the difference? They are night and day. One is my purpose is submitted to my personality. So I will only go as far as my mood will let me, as my disposition will let me, as my natural inclination will let me. That's just how I am. And people just don't get me. No, they don't. No, they don't. And they don't need to get you, because if they get you like you are right now, it's not going to be good for them. What needs to happen is you need to go into this process of sanctification and know that God loves you like you are, and realize, though, that He created you for a high calling, and press toward that mark. The crown must always win. The purpose must prevail over the personality. Say it again. The purpose must prevail over the personality. That's very important. 2 more, I'm done. Y'all having a good time? Pros know parameters, amateurs need permission. You didn't tell me 5 or 6 times. You didn't tell me you use all the arrows. A pro wouldn't need it. A pro would use them all and then look for another one. You got any more? When's the last time, Holly, if you asked me if I was ready to preach? Imagine if she still had to check on me. We've been doing this 11 years. Babe, you've been working on your sermon? You get up in front of people? No, this is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I don't need accountability for it anymore. But I got to get past the point of needing permission. Do you know the type of people that they need permission to do anything outside of 3 arrows? Anything outside of it's not that they won't grab the bow. It's not that they won't grab the arrow. It's just that they'll stand there and hold the bow and arrow if you don't tell them exactly what to do with it next. Are you that person? Could you go pro every once in a while and be like, oh, well, maybe he wants me to shoot it? I've heard so many people blame an opportunity that wasn't present for what was really a lack of initiative. I don't fool with those people anymore. I don't even look at them when I'm teaching anymore. I'm not interested in investing in people who are going to do just enough. I don't need that anymore. I'm past it. I'm over it. Once you go pro, you never go back. Once you meet people like Jamie Waldron, who will take your staff kids on a trip, because she isn't going to wait for us to get our stupid act together and figure out how to raise up the staff kids. She's like, well, by God, I don't need a job title to do it. I think I'll get a bus. I need a little bit of money. I don't need much. Let's take these kids. We say they're the future. Let's act like it. I love that. Once you get a Jamie, you don't go. Touch somebody, say you never go back. You never go back. You will not put up with complacent people. Once you get an LJ who will practice while he watches you in an empty auditorium, you don't go back to poutiness. You don't go back to somebody who acts like they're doing you a favor to serve you. Once you get somebody who's like, man, it would be awesome if I could. Once you taste proactive, you will never settle for passive again. You won't want it near you. You will almost develop an allergy to it. And you'll just become okay with the fact that not everybody wants to be a pro. Not everybody wants to win. Not everybody cares about their purpose. Not everybody is committed to it. Not everybody is willing to submit themselves to something bigger. Not everybody is willing to be a part of a winning team, even if they're not the star of it. Not everybody is willing to take the hard criticism and distill it to the essence and put it into practice and reject bitterness and choose improvement. Not everybody is like that. But if you are, watch out. Because once you go pro, once you get it in yourself, once you release yourself from the prison of the need of self-validation, nothing will be impossible with you. Nothing. So you notice with campus pastors that the pro campus pastors have to be reined in. Do you really need to have a new volunteer meeting for parents of 5th graders? Do you really need to have one do you really need to have a separate eKids breakout training session for kids that have lost their goldfish in the last month? I mean, the campus pastors who are proactive, they're just like, they're throwing so much seed out because they figure only 25% of it works. Because they read the parable of the sower. It's like, well, if there's a 75% failure rate, I got to just do a lot of seed. I mean, the proactive ones are stealing arrows from people. Give me that arrow. They're not leaving them lying around. They will take your arrow if you leave it on the ground. And it feels different than their positioning because they don't always post their arrow collection. It's not a presentation thing. It's a preparation thing. They're very, I mean, I see this stuff that you're doing at Blakeney right now. I see it. I can feel you because y'all stood up last week with the winds, and I thought some of them were cool and some of them weren't because a few were comparing snow days to regular days. I didn't think that was cool last week. It wasn't a real good application. But when I go on and I see, and I don't just look on Instagram, I listen for stuff, I talk to people. But when I see like this upper room thing, I'm like, do I like that? I don't care. He's doing something. I don't know. Maybe it's a good meeting. Maybe it's not. Maybe it won't. Maybe it'll choke, or maybe the sun will scorch it. Maybe it'll be 100-fold. Maybe. What you gonna do? Sit around and cry because Pastor's not live at Blakeney anymore? It's just so hard because we're 5 miles away from the broadcast location. He's not an amateur. He's a pro. I love it. I love my staff. I love it. I see it in you too, Brennan. I see you just going for stuff. Not for you. That's why I like it, because I think there would have been a time in your life where it would have been about you. It's becoming less about that. You don't even care anymore. It's become more internal, hasn't it? It's become more internal. They were bragging about you the other day. You need to know that. God, I almost cried when I saw Jordan's post about Danny filling up the baptism tank and practicing. Woo, I wanted to give her a bonus. I'm not going to, but I wanted to. I got some sleep, I got over it. That's a pro. That's a pro move. She still struggled with big boy in the tank, and we need to work on, you might have to lift a little more with Angel, but what I'm saying is, I liked it. I liked it. My social media team, they started putting 12 things on my photo stream, just 12, because they were putting 2 and I wasn't choosing them. So maybe we put 12 up. I like it. I like that. That's proactive. I love it. I even love the mistakes. I even love Malchus's ear laying on the garden floor. I want to be walking around ears in the office. Not too many. You know what I mean, though? Not stupid stuff either. Don't just go out and do stuff. I can see right now this teaching being abused, and I don't want it to. I just mean, like, are you obsessed with authority, or are you committed to responsibility? Amateurs need permission. Hey, you know you could do it different. Hey, you know you don't have to always do the thing with the thing. Hey, you know you could. Man, how cool was Zach's Instagram post about the windows a couple weeks ago? Did y'all even see it? Zach Kimry's worth a follow. Kimry's his last name, right? Okay, I got nervous. Y'all are looking at me weird. It was cool because I thought he was mature when I read it, because he was saying how excited he was when he got a last-minute update from Jared about what I wanted, or from Andy. He got a last-minute update, and it got him excited. Like Joe when I wanted that seesaw before Hope of Glory. He's a pro. One thing that separates a pro is what they do with pressure. A pro will welcome it. A pro will welcome it. Give me that 8 o'clock crowd. I'll work that 8 o'clock crowd. That's a pro. Yeah. So Zach was posting about, I don't remember exactly how he said it, but it was cool because he was so proud. Pros take pride in the process, and they could care less who gets credit for the product. That's a lot of P's, I know, but that's how my mind thinks. You just got to go with it. So he was saying that when the windows came down on New Year's Eve, when they lowered the windows on New Year's Eve, it wasn't a braggy post. It just felt like he had not confused credit with contribution. And a pro knows that the real joy comes from contribution, not credit. The real joy comes from within yourself knowing what you were a part of, not people applauding the part you played in it. Some of the 2K2 victories, the intern victories this year, they won't be recognized, and that'll make them even sweeter. Because when you pray in secret, you get your reward from your Father in heaven. When your right hand doesn't know what your left hand is doing, you get your reward from your Father in heaven. It's even better that way. A pro gets to the point where, don't even tell me I'm doing a good job. I mean, okay, you could tell me. It's nice. But if you didn't, I'd still do it. Now, do you have any feedback for how I could do it better? That's a pro. Hey, that was great. Da 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 da. Ba 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 ba. Ba ba ba. It was awesome. Ba ba ba. Great. Thank you so much. That means so much to me. Wow. What is there that you would have liked to hear about? How did that register with you? Da, da. That's how a pro is. They want to make it even better because I want to produce even more. Are you a pro? Are you proactive? Parameters means like, just tell me what I can't do. Tell me what's too far. I'll work everything within the square footage. I'll work my box. An amateur needs somebody to say, hey, you could go, could you help us with they always have to be asked. Grab the bow. Elisha looked at Jehoash and said, you rookie king, don't you know that you only get the double portion if you stick it out after he tells you to go home 3 times? Pros are persistent. Amateurs have grandiose ideas of the difference they want to make, and they want it to take 2 weeks. Amateurs have this huge idea of a significant contribution they want to make in the world, and they want to do it in 2017. A pro knows I better settle in. I might not even see anything the first year. I might not even see anything the second year. When Michael comes today, can you imagine if I said, my retirement account, I'm taking all the money out, it's not working? You're 36. This is for when you're 65. A pro knows that. An amateur with his money moves his money around all the time, just always move into something else because you haven't had enough experience yet to know that nothing produces if it doesn't stay planted. Anyway, I want you to go pro. I want you to prioritize progress over perfection. A pro celebrates progress, an amateur demands perfection. So Dustin Stradley was one of the CPs who came over. He posted something, and I screenshotted it because I thought he was preaching right good. I actually am going to have Dustin preach to the whole church sometime this year. Now, if he's a pro, he'll start preparing right now. He'll open a note right now on Evernote. It'll say sermon at elevation with a question mark by it. Everything that happens to him that might be preachable, he'll start grabbing it. If he's a pro, I think he is. Because he's not going to need permission. He's just not. Anyway. How good is this teaching today? All right, he quoted something from the sermon because I preached on Elijah to the kids at Liberty. Most of us are not living at the level of our potential. We're living at the level of our preparation. Look how he applied that. Listen how personal this is. He said, such an anointed word brought by my pastor tonight at Liberty University. Well, thank you, Dustin. I mean it. Thank you, Dustin. He said, the sermon wrecked me. I've struggled with procrastination, okay? Because we could talk about a different kind of pro. Save it for another day, right? Y'all feeling good about the move, the transition? You guys excited? Good. It's going to be great. He said, I've struggled with procrastination in certain areas my entire life and could never figure out why. Been digging for years, but it always creeps back in and leaves me in a constant state of frustration. But what God's been teaching me is that procrastination is really just a symptom of something deeper. I didn't ask his permission to share this, but I figured if he put it on Instagram, it was okay. Public domain. It's a symptom of something deeper. Okay, so now he's going pro because he's not just dealing with it at the surface anymore. And he's not just submitting his purpose to his personality. He's not just saying, I've always struggled with procrastination. That's how I am. Get used to it. When you got biceps like these, you can procrastinate like you want. None of that flexing, none of that covering up. Now he's going pro. Now he's digging beneath to see, like, why do I procrastinate? Why do I? It's something deeper, he said. The real issue is that I'm a perfectionist. Ooh, I think we're on to something, Dustin. We're on to something. I'm a perfectionist. I procrastinate because I'm a perfectionist. I delay certain things because I fear they won't be good enough. Raise your hand at any point any of this resonates with you. Yeah. This is what I wanted to say this weekend. I didn't say it exactly like I wanted to. I thought by 3 times I'd hit it just right. But if you don't show up, you can't fall short. And if you don't fall short, you can't grow. So, you follow me? I would have backed up even one more step and said, most of us have areas of our life where not only are we stopping short, but we're not showing up to fall short. And that's what he's saying. He's like, okay, how can I keep from losing? Because I want to win. Oh, here's what I'll do. If I can't win at it, I won't do it. Because if I don't do it, I can't lose. I beat the system. No, you didn't. Because potential has potential. And it becomes poisonous if you don't release it. So you're not going to get away with it. It's going to track you down. You got to go pro sometimes. At some point, you will have to take action on it. You can make that decision within yourself, or life will make it for you. After the 3rd job, after the 3rd marriage. You got to go pro sometime, or just die procrastinating. But this is so good. Listen, maybe I haven't preached on this. Wouldn't this be a whole good sermon? Maybe this is what I want you to preach on, Dustin. He said, I delay certain things I fear won't be good enough, that my work won't measure up. I set unrealistic expectations for myself that creates discontentment. I struggle with focusing on the areas I don't measure up in instead of the areas I'm winning at. But what God has been speaking through this series is that his provision awaits my preparation, that it's time to get back to plowing. That's what a pro does. Get back to plowing. Robert would try to teach me, next point. Don't break your racket. You need it for the next point. Maybe I wouldn't have quit if I would have just played the next point. Maybe I should have dragged Colleen back out there. Tried to beat her again. Colleen beat me too. It was a collapse. There was many factors that contributed to it. But he said, I struggle with focusing on the areas I don't measure up instead of the areas where I'm winning. But I'm learning that God's provision awaits my preparation. Time to get back to plowing. Uproot the lies of the enemy that I'll never be good enough. But instead I need to work what I got. I know this is not anything that no one said before. But to watch how one of y'all would take and apply it. And see like, oh, they got it. That's 100-fold return. That's 100-fold return. To see that he took that little sentence, that message, and said, It's not how my work measures up to those around me, but that God is pleased with where I am right now. And He is. He's just not pleased if you stay there forever. I'm celebrating the process, finding reward in preparation. This is everything I was trying to say. God, it feels good to see somebody preach your sermon back to you better than you preached it. He said, I'm celebrating the process, finding reward in preparation, overcoming perfectionism, and fully stepping into my God-given potential. I'm ready to embrace God's provision that awaits. The first step is awareness to change. And now that I'm aware, it's on. He said, it's on. Watch how he closed it. He said, stay in hell, devil. I'm not fighting for victory. I'm fighting, all caps, from victory. Hashtag God is preparing me. Touch somebody next to you, say, I'm going pro. 2017, I'm going pro. No rookie sitting next to you this year. I'm not complaining about stuff that's in my power to change this year. I'm going pro. I'm burning the plows. I'm not looking back. I'm going pro. I'm going pro. And that's why I dressed up today. I wanted to go pro. Holly said, what are you doing? She did, like maybe there was something on my schedule she didn't know about. She said, what are you, she's all sleepy, you know, she's in a bad mood in the morning anyway. What are you doing? But she was so sweet, she came over, she said, what are you doing? And I said, I'm breaking the pattern. I'm going pro. So do it with your team this week. When they're starting to talk about like, ooh, well, we don't have permission to do this, or we don't have the ability to do that, or we don't have the budget to do that, or we don't have the da-da-da-da-da. Say this, say, what if we went pro? What if we went pro? What if we looked at what we had working? What does pro mean? It means for, right? Pro, for. What if we looked at what we have working for us, not what's against us? I can't stop teaching right now. I just feel like I'm switching stuck on. What if we went pro? What if we weren't even allowed to talk about the problem right now? We could only talk about the solution. What would we do? That's what we've been doing this week, isn't it, Jess? And that's what we did last week. We were talking about a scheduling thing, and we forced it into solution mode. What if we went pro? What if we took responsibility? What if we remembered, like, not only is it a privilege to serve God, but to be on staff getting paid to do it? What if we went pro? What if we didn't allow ourselves the luxury of excuses? What if we went pro? What if we turned procrastination into progress? What if we went pro? What if we cast our nets on the other side of the boat? What if we went pro? Okay. A couple announcements. Y'all good? Give the Lord a hand for that. I ask you to really, please continue to work your window and be a window for our church like you have been on social media in any way that you can, and other ways too. It's really thrilling to me. On anniversary weekend, they set up a special hashtag called, it's going to be on the screen, I believe, hashtag ECXI, Elevation Church's 11th anniversary. This doesn't replace Work Your Window. I don't want to like take the momentum from a hashtag that we have going and do something obscure for a week and nobody does it and there's 32 posts and we lose our momentum. But if you want to add it on, just to kind of get the anniversary vibe out there, it's great. Anything you want to post of favorite moments and be a window this week, things that God is teaching you, things from today, things that will encourage the teams that look at your stuff, that's great on social media. I overemphasize social media when I talk about stuff sometimes. It's because I'm a little secluded and isolated. I do appreciate the other ways too. I know that there are ways that go far beyond that. So I appreciate all of that. They have designed for our perfect attendance folks anniversary t-shirt. It's cool. I was going to wear it today before I decided to go pro because I had the first one, but I decided to go pro instead. There it is. It's a beautiful t-shirt. You will get one in the lobby on your way out today. Our gift to you. For them and their spouse or just for them? Them and their spouse or just for them? I don't remember. For a spouse as well. No. You could get it for your spouse too. Anybody, any staff and spouse, until supplies are limited. Go pro, go get one. My good friend Perry Noble is going to be preaching for us this weekend for anniversary weekend. I don't think anybody in the room is completely ignorant that he went through a major transition with the church that he founded, New Spring Church, essentially removing him as senior pastor this year. Personally, for me, he was the first guy who gave me a window and gave me a glimpse into what God could do through a church. So after this season that he's been through, I've kind of been waiting for the right time, and we've been trying to figure out the right time. He has not preached since in July when he was removed from the church that he founded 15 years ago. There are certainly, things in his life that aren't perfect, just like yours and mine. But he has been telling me all along, the first pulpit I would like to stand in if you feel like God leads you to do it is Elevation. So it'll be cool this weekend to get to honor him. And obviously that won't be kind of the focus of the weekend. It's more of the byproduct, but I'm excited that he's getting to step into this kind of momentum. And he sent me an email. I may share this with the church, but he sent me an email when they had 7,000 people for the first time when they built their building in Anderson out in that cow pasture. I emailed him and said, "That's unbelievable, and congratulations." I had just started corresponding with him. We weren't friends much before I started Elevation. And he goes, his email back was, "Get ready, you're next." And I thought he was so crazy. That sounded so far-fetched to me. And so what a cool thing how God will, even in a season of loss that he's had, now something that he invested in. You never know. And we're going to get to welcome him and hear from him this weekend, so it'll be a special weekend. Father, bless this staff as they put their hand to the plow, no looking back, in Jesus' name. Amen. Y'all have a great day. Love you.